All right, let's jump right in. Today, we are going to challenge a fundamental belief in the world of technology. We're going to explore what I'm calling a new code, an idea that might just completely change how you think about building things. I want you to really stop and think about this for a second. If you're someone who builds things with tech, what's your most valuable contribution? Now, hold that thought. What if the most valuable part of that whole process— I know. It's a pretty wild claim. But we're about to explore exactly why those lines of code you write might actually be the least important part of your job, and what's quickly stepping up to take its place. So first things first, let's talk about dethroning the king. For decades, we've all kind of agreed that code is the end-all be-all. It's the tangible proof of all our hard work. But is it really? Okay, check this out. This might completely flip your whole perspective. The final code that we ship, turns out that only accounts for maybe 10–20% of the actual value that's been created. The real heavy lifting, the other 80–90%, that's all just structured communication. You know, the meetings, the planning, the debates, boiling down ideas, that's where the real value is born. This quote just nails the problem perfectly. Think about it. Your code can't capture the arguments you had, the other options you threw out, or the deep why behind a decision. It's a translation, right? And just like any translation, you lose something. All that rich context and human understanding, it isn't in the syntax.
So if communication is where all the value is, it means it's also our biggest bottleneck. Let's be honest, getting that human-to-human alignment right is the hardest and most critical part of the whole game.
And you can see it when you map out the whole journey from a simple idea to something that actually makes an impact. You've got understanding needs, distilling problems, planning solutions, verifying outcomes. All of that is communication. Translate to code is just one little step in a much, much bigger chain. The real work is making sure we build the right thing to begin with.
And this is where we see a huge shift happening. As AI gets incredibly good at translating our plans into code, the skill that matters most is no longer coding itself. It's the ability to clearly, powerfully articulate your intent, your goals, and your values. That becomes your primary asset. In this new world, being a great communicator is being a great programmer.
Okay, so how do we master this communication chaos? Well, we need a new central artifact, something that can capture all that value we've been talking about. And it's time to talk about the rise of the specification, or what we'll call the spec. Now, a modern spec is not some dusty old requirements document that nobody ever reads. No, this is a living, breathing blueprint. It's written in plain English that literally everyone can understand, and it captures the entire thought process, the goals, the values, all the trade-offs. It becomes the single, undisputed source of truth for the entire team. Think about it like this. If you use an AI to generate some code, and then you just delete the prompt you used, well, that's like compiling a program and then immediately shredding the original source code. It's just madness. The real value is in the source, the intent, the spec. That is the new source code. So what makes a modern spec so great? Well, it's human readable for starters, so your colleagues in legal or product or policy can actually read it and contribute. It's version controlled, just like code, so you have a perfect history of every decision. And ultimately, it's that one universal artifact that gets everybody, and I mean everybody, on the same page. But here's where it gets really interesting. This isn't just about aligning humans with each other. The real power move is when we can make these specs executable, when we can use them to align our AI models directly. Let's take a quick example. Say your spec has a rule: don't be overly agreeable or sycophantic. But then you see the AI doing this, praising the user's insight when it should be staying impartial. Well, because that rule exists in the spec, there's no debate. The behavior is wrong. It's a bug. End of story. And that's the power of having a trust anchor. It gives everyone, the team, the users, the public, a clear, shared reference for what to expect. It's the foundation for trust. When you've put your intentions out there for everyone to see, you can actually be held accountable to them.
And this alignment can become totally automatic. The spec itself can be used to train and test the AI. So instead of constantly reminding the model of the rules with every single prompt, we can embed these policies right into its core, making the right behavior feel like second nature, like muscle memory for the machine.
Now, you might be thinking this is all very specific to AI development, but this idea of a central, human-readable spec, it's actually a universal principle. It's something we already use in our most complex systems.
Just look at a nation's constitution. What is that, really? It's a spec for society. The artifact is the written law. Updates happen through amendments. It's tested through judicial review. The goal isn't to align silicone, it's to align an entire society. We've been writing specs to program complex human systems for literally centuries. So this brings us to a really powerful conclusion. If the most important work we do is defining our intent in a spec, then we have to radically redefine what it even means to be a programmer.
The new programmers? They're everywhere. They're the product managers writing documents to get their teams aligned. They're the lawmakers writing legal specs to align society. And yep, every single time you write a clear, detailed prompt to an AI, you are acting as a programmer. You're writing a tiny spec to align a powerful model to your intent.
This means the rules of the game have fundamentally changed. It is no longer about who can write the most clever code. It's about who can write the clearest specification. That person is the real architect of whatever gets built.
And, maybe this was true all along. Maybe engineering was never really about the code. Maybe it's always been about this precise human exploration of solutions to human problems. We're just finally shifting from a language built for machines to a language built for our own intent.
And that leaves us with one last, really fascinating question to think about. If our main job is now writing specs, what does our IDE, our main tool of the future, even look like? What do we need?
Perhaps it's not for developing code at all, but for developing thought, an integrated thought clarifier, a tool that helps us find the holes and the fuzziness in our own thinking, forcing us to be more precise so we can communicate our intent perfectly to each other and to our new AI partners. Now that is a future worth building.